What's going on? Welcome back. Welcome to the last room of the CompTIA Pentest Plus pathway in TryHackMe. This is the last room, and as you can see, it's about Active Directory basics. So basically, you would expect me to explain every single bit and byte of Active Directory in this video, but no, there are many videos on the internet that cover the basics of Active Directory. Now, why I'm doing this video? Because it's part of CompTIA Pentest Plus pathway in TryHackMe. First, second, to answer the questions, and third, to do the hands-on lab. So that is an Active Directory basic oriented towards the pen testing. But this is meant to prepare you to do the attactive room. So if you go to your dashboard, and if you're enrolled in the CompTIA Pentest Plus, there is a lab here called Active Directory. So before jumping right to that lab, you would first do the Active Directory basics. So that's the purpose of this room, to prepare you to do the Active Directory. Okay. So here we are. So I'm gonna go over here from task 2 until task 7. All of these tasks are pure theoretical theories. I don't know if this is correct. Okay, so here, physical Active Directory, although it's AD in the cloud, they're all about questions, and you have to answer. And then we're going to do the hands-on lab last. So physical Active Directory, you would read these, but I'm going to explain while I'm answering the questions. So here we have the first question, as you can see. What database does the ADDS contain? ADDS, it is the Active Directory data store. And the database it contains is ntds.dit, which is the database responsible for holding all of the info about the Active Directory, as you can see here, as well as the password hashes. So the answer here is this. Where is the NTDS stored? It is stored, it's very clear, it is here. So why would this is beneficial to us? Because sometimes you want to find out the file and you want to copy it or back it up so some way. Or if you're doing pen testing, you would access this file on this path. What type of machine can be a domain controller? So what type of machine can be a domain controller? Any machine actually, but on the condition that it is running a Windows server. So Windows server machine could be, any Windows server machine could be an Active Directory domain controller. What is a domain controller? Domain controller is the top it's the top machine, okay, that controls all of the other machines on your domain. All right. So when we do pen testing, our objective is to take control of this machine. Okay, so I'm gonna click on submit. Go next, forest. Now, what's the term for a hierarchy of domains in a network? So basically, as you can see in this figure, we have tree. The tree contains the domains. Domain 1, domain 2, domain 3, this is tree. A collection of trees are contained in a forest. So here the answer, the hierarchy of domains in a network called a tree. So you have at the very top, forest, trees. Inside of trees, there are domains. And domains, we have machines, groups, users. What's the term for the rules for object creation? So what controls the object creation? As you can see, the objects are users, groups, printers, computers, and shares. So who controls or what controls the creation of these objects? Actually, it's a domain schema. So the answer is right here. What's the term for containers, for groups, computers, users, printers, and other OUs? So basically the containers of all of these, you know, it is organizational units. So this is the answer. Right. Next, users and groups. Let's go down. Which type of groups specify user permissions? So basically in Active Directory, you have two types of groups, the security groups and distribution groups. The security groups controls the permissions, right? Distribution groups controls the distribution of emails list. Now, what type of groups specify user permissions? It is the security groups. Which group contains all workstations and servers joined to the domain? So you know it is domain computers. The domain computers groups contains all of these details mentioned in the question. Which group can publish certificates to the directory? So the answer is here, as you can see somewhere here, but it is cert publishers. Okay, which user can make changes to a local machine but not do a domain controller? So basically, you have two types of admins. We have the domain controller and domain admins. Domain admins are local admins. Okay, domain controllers. Uh, yes, no, actually, yes. So basically, let me tell you something. The administrators, I just mixed things up here. We have domain admins and we have local administrators. Now, the difference between these groups of users is that local administrators can control local machines, any machine on a domain, but not the domain controller. The only user or the only group of users that control or can control the domain controller machine is the domain admins. Local administrators can do everything except the purview of the domain controller. So the answer here is local administrators. Which group has their passwords replicated to read-only domain controllers? So basically, members in this group can have their passwords replicated to all read-only domain controllers in the domain. So the answer is somewhere here. It was allowed something, allowed. This one. Right. Basics. Okay. Let's go down. What type of trust flows from a trusting domain to a trusted domain? Now, trust and policies actually, in a nutshell, trusts control, okay, how a user can access resources by assigning the permissions, and also can control the relationship between a domain and other domains, between a tree and other trees, between a forest and other forests. That's trust, the interaction and the request to access resources. So we have here two types of relationships, the directional and transitive. The directional here is what type of trust flows from a trusting domain to a trusted domain. That is directional. It's from domain to domain. Now, what type of trust expand to include other trusted domains? It is transitive. The difference is clearly stated here, as you can see. The direction of trust flows from a trusting domain to a trusted domain. But here, beyond just two domains, many domains. Okay. Now, what type of authentication uses tickets? Now, basically, in Active Directory, you have two types of authentication, the Kerberos and NTLM. The Kerberos uses tickets, so it is Kerberos. Now, the other one, what domain service can create, validate, and revoke public key certificates? So in Active Directory, there is a service called Certificate Services responsible for assigning certificates. Certificate services. AD in the cloud. Now, AD in the cloud, they mean by saying Azure AD, which is the equivalent of Active Directory on premises, but with more security features. They are outlined here. So what's the Azure AD equivalent of LDAP? It is REST APIs. So instead of using LDAP for communicating, they use REST APIs. What is the Azure AD equivalent of domains and forests? So domains and forests, as you can see, they exist in trees, and trees exist in forests. But instead of domains and forests, we use tenants in Azure AD. What's the Windows Server AD equivalent of guests? So guests, here we have guests, but in Windows Server we have them trusts. So basically, when we explain the relationship between objects and the resources they want to access, we say instead of trust, we say guests, and that is valid only in Azure AD. Now, finally, to the hands-on lab. So the hands-on lab here, we are required to run PowerView and do some enumeration on Active Directory machine that we have been granted access to. So here we are. Okay. The first thing is we open a cheat sheet. So basically, before I open the cheat sheet, let me run the tool. Here is, let me shift this to the left. I don't need this anymore. So here we would start with basic enumeration. We would start with getting domain info about the current domain we are enumerating. So for that, we would use the current or the following PowerView command, get, and then we type net domain. And we see we have basic info about the current domain. The forest name, controller.local, domain controllers. As you can see, they are domain controller.controller.local. Children, no children, and the name is controller.local. This is domain controller name, and this is the forest name. Now, what if we want to get specific info about specific domain? We would type get net domain dash domain, and then we type the domain name. But on an example, we only have one domain. I'm saying this in case you are enumerating more than one domain. So let's say take that and paste it. So we'll retrieve the same results. Now let's say we want to get the domain SID. We would use that when we do Kerberos golden ticket attacks. We would need the SID. So we type get, and here we type domain SID. So this is a domain SID, basically. What if we want to get information about the policies of this domain, which is very important? So we type get, okay, and we type domain policy, just like that. You see here some policies, registry values, system access, minimum password age 1, maximum password age. As you can see, after 42 days, the user needs to reset their password. And Kerberos policy, maximum ticket age 10, 600, the expiration. Okay, so what if we want to check our privileges that we have right now? Okay, so we would say get domain policy, enclose that in parentheses, and here we type privilege rights, privilege rights. So no outputs. Okay. Now let's say we want to get all of the users we have, list the users. So now we finished from the domain. We have basic information about the domain controller, the SID, the policy of the passwords, whatever. Now let's say get right net user. You see here we have many users on the system, and we have retrieved all of their info, but in a long format along with their properties. Actually, these are not all properties, but from the output we can see we have administrator. If we go down, we see the properties of that account. And of course, we see the KRBTGT for the Kerberos. Here we see another user, machine 1, the groups they belong to, admin 2, so let's say I'm interested in one user, admin 2 for example. I want to get specific details about that user. What do I do? So we type get net user and then dash user cold weathers are very hard when you just it's very hard to type fast when weather is cold. So get net user dash username, and we just put the name of the user. Yeah, we have the details of that user. Let's go over the details. Login counts, they haven't logged in, bad password time, distinguished name, object class, the principal name, the SID, and of course we see here object UID, category. We want to see the groups. So member of, as you can see, many groups. And among the groups here, they are member of domain admins. So they are admins on this domain, which is very important. What else? OU, groups, admins, schema admins, of course. So this is a domain controller admin, by the way, admin 2. That's how we get the properties of a specific user. Now, let's say we want to get the groups. So instead of getting the users, we say get net, and here we type group. List all the groups. And of course, these are the groups. We have administrators, domain admins, replicator, remote desktop users. Okay. Let's say we want to get details of specific group. So we type get net group and then single quotes. I want to get details about DNS admins. Okay. Get net group, DNS admin, nothing in here. Okay, let's say domain admins. Get the same. How about this? I don't know why it's giving my details. No clue why. Okay, no problem. Now let's say we would like to get the groups a user belongs to. So for example, I want to see what are the groups that the administrator belongs to. Okay, so I would type get net group, we remove this part, I would type dash user name, the N is uppercase, I guess, name. Okay, then we would specify the username. So in this case, we would say admin2. And these are the groups this member belongs to: administrators, domain admins, schema admins, group policy creators, enterprise admins. And you shift the pattern forward. That's how you enumerate the groups, the users, the domain, all of these details. You can use the same logic with all of the commands. Now let's say I want to get a list of all the computers. So I want to see the operating system. So get net computer. Domain controller dot control. This is the domain controller. Desktop 1, desktop 2. So we have 2 users and 1 domain controller. Okay, so what else we can find out? Let's say we want to search if there is any file server in there. So when we enumerate Active Directories or when we enumerate Windows or Linux, we want to find out what are the shares. In the previous rooms, we saw how to do that with Samba servers, NFS file shares, NetBIOS. Let's see how we can do that with this one. So get net, and then we type file server. No, so we don't have file servers in here. Okay. Now let's see the questions required in this challenge. This room. Deploy the machine, completed. What's the name of the Windows 10 operating system? What's the name of the Windows 10 operating system? So basically, we are talking about enumerating the machines, the computer names, in addition to the operating systems they run on. So basically what we would do here, we would say get net computer, right? And cybertype dash full data. You see here we have the full data of everything. You can use this switch, but we want to filter these results to be more manageable. So I say select, and up there we would want what is the field, what's the property we want to filter. So this is the property, operating system, and we can filter the results. Windows 10, Windows Server 2019 standard, enterprise evaluation, enterprise evaluation. Okay, let's see here. What's the name of the Windows 10 operating system? So it is Windows 10 Enterprise Evaluation. What's the second admin name? We saw that previously in the enumeration admins too. What group has a capital V in the group name? What group has a capital V in the group name? We have enumerated the groups actually. You can just type getNet group, list the groups, capital V, Hyper-V. No? What group has a capital V in the group name? Interesting. I think it's Hyper-V. This one. The only one that contains capital V. By the way, we can list the groups with other commands, like for example, we can say net or that local group. But will it work here? I don't think it's going to work. Oh, it worked. You can list the groups the same way. All right. When was the password last set for the SQL service user? When was the password last set for the SQL service user? So we were talking about enumerating the properties of a specific user. Okay, in this case, it is the SQL Server. So what we would do here, we would say get net user, right? Let's say dash username. Username is SQL service. And dash full data. Nope. Okay, no need for that. Password last set. This is the date, actually. So we can take the date when created. Let's check more. I have this before. Oh, it was here. Oh, okay. And this is done. So basically that was the Active Directory lab. I hope you found this helpful. And of course, don't forget to click on completed. And I conclude the CompTIA Pentest Plus pathway in this group, in this video. So next we would hit another challenges. Thank you for watching.